do that without a special permit. But if it's just debris, we should be able to remove that.
Just to add, this is something we talked about as flood mitigation as far as FEMA as well. FEMA is taking kind of a look at the ownership question, not so much of what you asked Alderman Shelton, but really, do we have the ability to do the whole creek if we only own half of it? And I think, if they come back and say favorably that I think would be a good flood mitigation effort, then, I think this is a really simple to do, because flood mitigation, I think, is either 90 or 100% reimbursement, because the idea is to keep it from happening again. I won't have an answer for that for the way things are going, probably a couple months. So that's the only caveat to this, is that we might do something hoping that FEMA will reimburse us, and then they come back and decide that they won't. So I just want to make sure that that part is understood. The other thing, which again, not for these two things, but FEMA is they're sticklers on making sure you go through the proper city purchasing procurement policy. So we need to make sure anytime we do anything that we're following that, or that could be a simple way for FEMA to say, well, that's no longer eligible. So something else to kind of, I'm all sorts of fun FEMA stuff tonight for you guys.
So to that, does what we've done here meet the procurement policy, or would we need to really wait to have a third bid? Is there some sort of three bid?
I mean, I think since it's design build and it's really it's a
Right.
professional services instead of a bid.
Okay.
We're meeting the city's purchasing policy.
Okay.
There are other steps from the one meeting I sat in on where, all the items that are moved, they want a GPS location for it and where it's moved to. They want you to track every movement of it, and we'll be able to share all that information with Christine. So then the issue becomes, are they reimbursing the city for just the part on our side or all of it?
And there's some,
That's
if you look at
tricky.
the maps, like the part from Deer Creek, from Manchester until you get, it's that little S curve and all that. I mean, none of that is on city property, because that is Webster's Public Works and then Brentwood Materials and Millman Lumber. It's not until you get to the park where you'll actually have any city property. So I'm just throwing all this out there. So you
And
guys
have we contacted all of the property owners that are the parcels, the 7 on Black Creek and the few that you're talking about on Deer Creek?
So I think that will be the discussion before it comes to the board.
Okay.
Once there's a path forward from this
So
committee.
if we vote favorably to move this on, we'll try to get all of those questions answered and
Right.
be ready.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think generally, I think Alderman Wege mentioned it last time, this is probably what the city government is here to do, right? To protect for things like this, infrastructure, things like this. And so I do think that this is important for us to do, especially in light of, the flood mitigation effort we've already taken on for a portion. This helps expand it out to a lot of, at least some degree of protecting along there, or mitigating along there. So I think it's a good thing to do.
I think one thing we probably should be mindful of is this is not just a one-time thing, because what we were doing in the past for infrastructure that near the creek, near infrastructure the city owns, it should be a regular thing that's done. Dan, is it yearly?
We were doing it yearly until COVID hit, but we had like a winch. We did just the light stuff. So I know we would go in there, Public Works would actually clear out the area around Brentwood Boulevard Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that the Corps of Engineers said as long as you were within like 200 feet of a man-made structure, it's like, well, the bridge is man-made. So we could basically go 200 feet on either side, clear that out, and that helped. And I know we did like Rose Avenue, we did Strassner, but it's been since 19. We didn't do it at all in 20 because we were kind of a skeleton crew in 21. I know with staffing challenges, we were constantly doing sanitation then and now, but the goal would be like in the wintertime, we would go out when the ground's frozen enough and we can drive a backhoe and a skid steer and do our thing. But we would just get the light stuff. This was more cutting of trees, and we cleaned honeysuckle and stuff, but it just keeps coming back.
Right, no, understood. Does this include the bridge pylons in the
Does
This-
it?
pilings or
This
whatever?
didn't, I mean, it's time and material, so it can. I mean, I don't know if Castle looked at removal and what that would cost, because that would be a side item.
I think
This
if
is
we're,
really for
I mean,
cleaning.
if we're going in, I'd like to know
Good.
what the cost is for
Exactly.
that, because that is a continual choke point that collects debris and then,
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, because nobody wants to take ownership of it. It is an abandoned railroads. I believe it was like St. Louis and Kirkwood Railway.
Right, right.
Because they found it on an old plat. So
Yeah,
I
that's-
assume when they took the bridge down, they just took the structure off and left the pier, because it's probably too difficult to remove that old concrete.
City would have to remove it because no one else is willing to take
Nobody's
on
gonna
that
do
Yeah, it's too far out of the MoDOT right-of-way. They said it doesn't belong to them, and I'm sure the county would say the same thing, that it's too far west of Hanley Road.
I think it'd be good to know what the cost is to do that. It's a long time.
Would you want the others to give you the cost of that as well, so that it's fair across the board?
I don't know. I mean, I think we've got some pretty good, well, this one, I guess, is just time and material. So yeah, I guess, I'd like to have that added into as an alternate potentially, I guess, to move forward with both of them that way.
So have them both give a cost for pier removal.
Well, I guess that is a motion.
Well-
I don't know what, yeah, go ahead. That's
So
just
I
a
guess
thought.
my question is, are we going to slow this down to get a bid for that, to take out the concrete? Or are we going to go ahead and try to do this and then,
Yeah.
and then get a bid on the concrete? And then we could do that either at the same time if,
We can bring that back to the board if you all are comfortable with not having seen what those quotes are, but once Dan has them, we can share it with you all, and you can just maybe individually kind
Or we
of
could just do
respond
a
back
quote.
to us to let us know whether, okay,
Yeah, I
take
don't
it
wanna
forward
hold
or
up-
not.
I don't think it's worth holding up.
Yeah,
the-
it needs to
the
be
overall
done
cl-
around the same time,
Mm-hmm.
since they're going to be in the creek, right? To do it at the same time.
As the previous
Right.
stabilization
Right.
project?
Unless you are open to another meeting,
we could do a Zoom meeting.
a Zoom meeting, okay. We can do that.
Would you want to just bid the pier by itself later?
We will, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, all right, I'll make a motion that we move forward with Castle as our preferred vendor for Deer Creek and Black Creek cleanup, with pricing for the pier removal. That's what it's called.
Great. What about not to exceed amount?
Yeah, I just put the rough number of the 108. If you want to, I don't know what the contingency would be for the pier. That's not my, demolition's not my thing, so I don't know what that would be if we need to raise it higher.
Well, wouldn't we want to do a not to exceed at the board level?
Yeah,
Let's
Do it
get the
there.
Okay.
estimate and then not to exceed after
Okay.
we know.
gotcha.
Castle and
Correct.
any other questions?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Include the pier as a bid alternate after we've already voted on it. That's what you meant, right?
As a bid alternate,
Okay,
yes.
good.
All right. Citizen comment? Report, we are adjourned.
Was there a motion? First, second? Who made it?
Jeff?